Mashuru's just reminded us that a task team has been set up by the Prime Minister to investigate the slide and depreciation of the shilling and also measures that would be more innovative than what the CBK can actually do. Your views firstly on this task team. It's certainly, news of it certainly hasn't helped support the markets in any way. The shilling continues to depreciate and it's now over 100 shillings to the dollar.
Well, Lerato, as much as it pains me actually to put a happy face, is costly nowadays right now in Kenya. But in truth is that as the shilling has been sliding for the last couple of weeks, it's reached levels that have been regarded as alarming. And it's not sending a positive message to would-be investors and also the Kenyans, the domestic Kenyans right now, because at the moment the cost of living has really gone up. You see inflation is almost at 17.32, that's double digits. A lot of the consumer price index, things like maize flour, petroleum have all gone up. Safaricom has raised their tariff prices. So when you look at that in a nutshell, it goes to show you that there must be some element of stemming the tide in terms of the tide of loss, because at the end of the day, you look at the NSE is being regarded as the worst performing currently in Africa. There's a very big seesaw effect, and it's about time that certain strategic steps are taken to normalize the situation.
What would strategic steps be in your view, Waiyaki? People are talking about probably pegging the exchange rate, having a fixed exchange rate is probably one element. We've heard of the possibilities of speculators and, for that matter, overzealous speculators being active in the market. And to that extent, the CBK this week introduced a very controversial measure, which is to stop electronic forex trading. Those kinds of things don't seem to have helped in any way. What needs to be done, I think?
Well, you have to also understand from the point of view of the type of economy right now. Kenya's economy is more open and has been very liberal from the early 90s when the Foreign Exchange Control Act were done away with. So in terms of control of currency coming in and leaving the country, that is subject to market demands. But right now, it's currently become a very big problem. And we may see that the central bank, that committee also formed by the Prime Minister, trying to reintroduce foreign exchange controls. But that might, as you well put it, might be controversial because you're not still able to control the people who you're selling the dollars or the foreign exchange directly to, because you have no way of controlling to ensure that whatever currency they've bought is being utilized, like for instance, for purchasing. So it's more or less, we will wait and see. But from my point of view, what I look at is that they have to find a way of shutting down that speculative window, because you have to understand that we live in a kind of environment worldwide that we're not the type of economy is more open, is not controlled. So you're not able to dictate to an extent. And this window was brought in more like an emergency, because you notice it has to be implemented in law to reintroduce foreign exchange control. But the only situation right now is that because the matters have escalated too much, this is an emergency way of trying to control the situation.
Macro data that's come out today, GDP for the second quarter at 4.1%, inflation for September at 17.3%. I find this ironic. You know, we know that this is now the 9th straight month that CPI is rising, and yet GDP seems to have remained fairly consistent with expectations. Why is that?
Well, you have to look at it from the point of view of, if we were to break it down the way the stock market is broken down in sectors. If you look at the key sectors that have been driving growth, agriculture to an extent has been affected, but the rains have been constant. Even like today, we still are experiencing rains throughout the year. Then two, you find construction. Construction has been booming and has been vibrant, and this has had a knock-on effect in terms of boosting the GDP. Third, you have tourism. The numbers have not stopped. Actually, tourism numbers have been on the increase, so that is another element of bringing in terms of foreign exchange. 3, 4, just to mention, you have the whole aspect of tea prices going up, coffee prices going up. So when you compare that and you compare the two now, there's on one end you have performance that is going on very well, meaning inflows are increasing. On the other end, you find out that the the key elements, like now the price of fuel has gone up, meaning it affects electricity generation. It affects now, for instance, the tariffs that are going to be increased. So it's that, it's like a paradox, if I'm to use short of a term.
We do know that the gainers in the market, just to repeat what Mashudu spoke of, Ati River Mining at 6%, NBK, Access. But I'm interested in Scan Group. It's just been revealed that they're on a major acquisition drive. They've bought out Ogilvy Africa. They're opening offices in Ghana. Scan Group and some of the advertising and media stocks have been a favorite on this bourse. Share price hasn't reacted to this news. Is this a great strategy for them?
Well, like we said before, they've had a very interesting strategy, because you notice now they have a footprint not just in East Africa but to move towards West Africa, and this allows them to take advantage of various economies of strength, because having a wider market appeal means eventually they may become a Pan-African type of company, going by the way it is. And you know, advertising right now is beyond borders. What may be pleasing in South Africa would still be pleasing in East Africa, and by virtue of that, West Africa, because by virtue of historical ties and the ability to use English as a common language. So this is a strategy that Scan Group has adopted and is proving to be beneficial. And at the end of the day, would-be investors will be looking at a viable investment option.
Okay, great stuff. Waiyaki Hinga, have a great weekend.